Episode 10 of Rise of the Field Fillers on WW Motorsports will not be seen tonight, so that I may bring you the following special presentation. One of NASCAR's most unique creations is the All-Star Open, a short sprint race held before the All-Star race. Interestingly, the Open wasn't part of the inaugural All-Star weekend when it debuted as the Winston in 1985. It instead arrived the following year, when the exhibition moved from Charlotte to Atlanta. Known then as the Atlanta Invitational, the 1986 race was different from its current incarnation in two key ways. First, the winner would not transfer into the Winston. That race was strictly limited to the 9 race winners from 1985, plus 1986 Daytona 500 winner Jeff Bodine. Second, the Invitational wasn't open to every active driver not already in the Winston. Fans would get to pick a field of 14 from this pre-selected list of 26. As you can see, this included several Hall of Fame caliber drivers: Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, Buddy Baker, Benny Parsons, and David Pearson. Tim Richmond is on here too. Yes, he won 7 races in '86, but not for another month after the race was run. And here's who the fans picked. Among these was J.D. McDuffie, whose fan club president James Oldham worked overtime to make sure he had enough votes. In the race, Tim Richmond led the most laps, but was ultimately defeated by Benny Parsons, worth $75,000. When the Winston returned to Charlotte in 1987, the event was rebranded as the Winston Open. The fan vote was gone, but so was the pre-selected list of drivers. Basically, anyone who even attempted a race the previous year could enter. The result was a 34-car starting grid, and after 100 laps, race winner Buddy Baker transferred into the main event. Baker started last in the 20-car lineup and finished 18th, out with transmission issues. The format for the Open, as with the main event, has changed many more times in the years since, but the opportunity for just about any driver or team to transfer into the All-Star races remained. Through the 1980s and 90s, the Open attracted several unheralded drivers and teams. The entry list rivaled the depth of the qualifying races at Daytona, as teams didn't need to meet the demands of preparing a superspeedway car. Racers like Eric Smith, T.W. Taylor, and Steve Seligman. Teams like Salmon Racing, Aranek Racing, and Brooks Racing. Without the presence of winning drivers, a different cast of characters could compete for the win, and often did. Both Michael Waltrip and Sterling Marlin won the Open multiple times before they ever won a points-paying race. But even for drivers well back in the order, the Open was a prime opportunity to shake down their cars in both qualifying and race trim. And with the event still in Charlotte, that would prove critical for their chances of making the following week's Coca-Cola 600, which had a large entry list every year. This would certainly be the case in 2004, when nearly all the field fillers from the season's first 11 races took part. But this Open would play out in a way no one quite expected. As if by divine retribution, they returned from the brink of extinction in even greater numbers. They aroused anger in some, admiration in others, but each knew 2004 was their chance to rise. They were the Field Fillers! Among the many changes brought about by Nextel as new title sponsor was a rebranding of the Winston into something that explicitly identified it as an All-Star event. The 20th annual race was now called the NASCAR Nextel All-Star Challenge, preceded by the Nextel Open. Held at the Lowe's Motor Speedway, Charlotte's own rebranding, the Open would be split into 2 extremely short stages, 20 laps, then a 10-lap sprint. The winner at the end of all 30 laps would transfer into the main event, but he wouldn't be the only one. For 2004, Nextel brought back the fan vote from 1986, but with a modern twist. While 62 drivers were eligible to start the Open, only 26 were on the preliminary entry list. Those names were now on NASCAR.com's website, or accessible by Nextel flip phone by texting the word RACE to number 4444. Whoever received the most votes from Friday, May 14th to the night of the race on the 22nd would transfer into the main event. There was another twist. That driver still had to finish the 30-lap race on the lead lap. If he didn't, the spot would go to the driver with the next most votes who did. Thus, survival was just as important as popularity. This does not go unnoticed by the field fillers, who each look to earn their shot at a significant payday. As described in episode 2 of this series, Kirk Shelmerdine arrives in Charlotte in one of Travis Carter's black Fords, with the phrase "Vote for Kirk" in huge letters on the hood. Dave Lawrence's website racingunderdog.com is also on the TV panel, as it had the previous week at Richmond where Shelmerdine failed to qualify. "It would be a great honor to race with the guys in the challenge," says Shelmerdine, who's still searching for sponsors, "but I'd have to be voted in to be able to do that, so I'm relying on all my fans to help me. Let's go, Underdog fans, vote for Kirk." Shelmerdine remains proud of what he and his 3 full-time employees have accomplished so far in 2004. After arriving at Rockingham with an 8-year-old chassis and a 1998 Raymock-built engine, he's since qualified for 7 of the season's first 11 races. "We're going to try to pick some tracks where maybe we can afford to do a little better at," he said of his plans. "At Daytona and Talladega, if you have a car that can keep up with the field, you can draft. We may still be back in the order, but we won't be pitifully slow. If we can come up with some good cars by late summer, maybe we'll try to run a little better as we go here. It's tough watching the field drive away every week," he continued, "but I know what we have to work with, and what we're doing, and how much we do it with. I'm pretty proud of that. It's hard for other people to realize the odds we're up against to this point, but we hold our heads up knowing we're doing what can't be done." The Open also sees a return of one of the most familiar field fillers of the young season. Less than 3 months after his only car tumbled down the backstretch at Rockingham, the long shot Carl Long is back in Anna Glenn's bright blue number 46 Dodge. The fans had come out in force to help him buy a former Kyle Petty car with a Levitt chassis for Petty Enterprises. Long has spent many late nights getting this car ready for this race, all while balancing his duties as David Starr's car chief in the Truck Series. Both RacingMetal.com and Jarrett's Angels sign on as Long's associate sponsors. Even Liquid Salvation, the sponsor NASCAR had objected to in Las Vegas due to their provocative mascot, has a small logo on the C-pillar. He hopes his run tonight will land him a 10-race sponsor for the season's second half. To express his gratitude, Long has the phrase "Thank you fans" occupy the entire hood. In his own effort to redefine what it means to be a field filler, Long has been selling t-shirts to his supporters that read, "I might be slow, but I'm ahead of you." Tonight will be Long's first laps in a Cup car since Las Vegas, when he drove for Hermie Sadler. Sadler himself isn't in Charlotte, as he instead focuses on that Sunday's Busch Series race in Nazareth. The Busch Series program had been Sadler's priority from the start, which was why he didn't enter a car in Rockingham. "I understand the feeling of people saying, 'If it's not a full field, why don't you go?'" he said. "It doesn't do me any good to go to Rockingham and finish 39th in a Cup car." Things have certainly changed since, running one of Andy Belmont's cars in the Cup race at Bristol, then his own Chevrolets at Martinsville, Fontana, and Richmond. Looking to shake down his number 02 Chevrolet for the upcoming Coca-Cola 600, Sadler brings on Kevin LePage. 3 months into the season, LePage had lost his ride with Morgan McClure Motorsports and has since teamed up with former Truck Series crew chief John Conley. For the last year, Conley had attempted to get his number 79 Chevrolet into the field with other drivers, but to no avail. Once Sadler hires LePage, Conley withdraws his entry and will not return to the series until August. With that, the starting grid for the Nextel Open shrinks to just 25 entries. The Open will also mark a turning point for some of the field fillers in terms of sponsorship. It's in this race that Arnold Motorsports welcomes Geico Insurance to sponsor Derek Cope in the number 50. In retrospect, this was likely the first step in bringing on Cope's eventual replacement, Mike Wallace, who is sponsored by Geico in the Busch Series. It will also be the first time Husqvarna would see laps in competition on Stanton Barrett's number 94. The Open will mark the last time Morgan Shepherd's green Dodge carries logos for Voiles Equipment Company and Carter's Royal Disposal. After a difficult start to his season, where his former Chip Ganassi car failed technical inspection at Rockingham, Shepherd is happy to not have to worry about qualifying. "Several races we shouldn't have missed, but I think the driver got a little bit dumb and did a few things he shouldn't do," he said. "I took air pressure out at Bristol, and that hurt me, because I had a car plenty fast to get in. Other than that, everything's been pretty good." Hoover Motorsports had benched Andy Hillenburg for Randy LaJoie in Richmond, but after a practice crash and an early exit in the race, Hillenburg is back behind the wheel with more sponsorship than before. Sometime during the weekend, Spitfire Aviation buys space on the hood, while Mid-States Equipment Incorporated puts logos on the rear deck lid and lower quarter panel. Hillenburg is actually one of the most experienced drivers in the Open, having raced in it 4 times already, including in 1996 when he drove in place of an injured Robert Presley. For Hoover, it's his team's first Open start since 1999, when Hillenburg was also his driver. Hillenburg's wreck at Darlington, which destroyed the Hoover team's only car that complied with the 2004 templates, only motivated both driver and team. The 4-man team has since finished upgrading 2 more of their former Roush Racing cars by the Easter off weekend, their planned 8-race schedule bumped up to 20. Roush has also provided them a new engine and a qualifying transmission. Hillenburg hasn't lost focus. "We're really struggling," he said. "The guys, everybody's short on nerves and temper and sleep, but we're doing our best, and we're all doing what we love to do. I feel like by the middle of the year, we can be respectable. Are we going to build into a winner? Obviously not with the corporate dollars. But can we build into a legitimate competitor? Yes, we can. And I'm going to try to prove that." And back in a Cup car for the first time since his qualifying crash in Texas, Andy Belmont and his 6-man crew have dusted off another Pontiac he acquired from MBV Motorsports. For the first time since Rockingham, he runs his iconic number 59 as both owner and driver, but this time the outspoken driver has a message of his own to put on the car. During an episode of Wind Tunnel on the Speed Channel, Dave Despain suggests fans vote for Belmont to transfer into the main event. Belmont, who at the time hopes to run the upcoming races at Dover and Pocono, says that if he is voted in, he'll donate the winnings to the Pendle Fire Company, which is raising funds to buy a new truck.
Bottom line, no bullshit, was Dave Despain treated the field fillers with respect. He recognized that Andy Hillenburg was a USAC champion in a champ car, that he was, Andy Hillenburg was a great race car driver. He recognized that I had won NASCAR, the Dash Series Rookie of the Year, that I'd been, I'd won a lot of modified races, blah, blah, blah. He recognized that these guys that were getting kicked in the teeth were not bad guys and they weren't bad race car drivers. And so when he spoke positively about it, we didn't have a sponsor or anything going on for that particular event. And I just, tongue-in-cheek, it's just my sense of humor. But it was just, to me, it was just like, Dave Despain, you're my hero. And so I wanted to put it on the car big enough that if the TV camera caught it, he'd see it and know that there are guys that appreciate him recognizing. Dave Despain always spoke highly of all forms of motorsports. It didn't matter if you were a motorcycle racer or snowmobile racer or whatever. He appreciated guys, putting their hard-earned, sweat equity into their successes. And so really, it was really not a big deal. He spoke highly. He refused to throw the field fillers under the bus. And I respected that and appreciated it, so I was just kind of going back at you, Dave. That was all.
I like it.
Nothing more than that. Just me being attaboy. That was all.
Conspicuously absent among the field fillers is Phoenix Racing, which just a week earlier finishes a strong 17th at Richmond with Bobby Hamilton Jr. driving. Hamilton will attempt the following week's Coca-Cola 600, but without the Open as practice. But to have any chance at transferring into the main event, even as a fan vote, never mind the race winner, these 8 field fillers will have to compete against 17 other drivers, including active winners like Jeremy Mayfield, Ricky Rudd, Jamie McMurray, Sterling Marlin, and both Jeff and Ward Burton. Jeff Burton, the defending winner of the Open, continues to run piecemeal sponsorship deals after the crippling departure of Sitco. At the start of the year, he was only committed to run 14 of the 28 races. For now, he's fine, as Roundup Fast Act has signed as sponsor. This is not to say all 17 drivers are the usual suspects. 3 in particular are drivers for mid-pack teams that have each outperformed in their equipment through the first part of 2004. This is the second year with Chip Ganassi racing for Casey Mears. Moved up from the Busch Series to take over for Jimmy Spencer a year earlier, Mears endured a miserable rookie season where he failed to finish 10 times and ranked a distant 35th in points. But in the first part of his sophomore season, Mears shows immediate improvement. He earns his first top 10 at Las Vegas, taking 7th, then leads 37 laps at Atlanta before the engine lets go. 3 more top 10s follow at Texas, Talladega, and Fontana, and in opening practice for the Open, he puts up the fastest lap. Fellow Dodge driver Jeremy Mayfield, third in that session, leads the second practice. Another fleet Dodge is the number 23. When Penske Racing increased his technical alliance with Jasper Motorsports, Dave Blaney lost his ride in the number 77 to rookie driver Brendan Gaughan. It's Gaughan who also draws Kodak away from Morgan McClure Motorsports to be his sponsor. Blaney lands at the second Bill Davis Racing entry previously driven by Kenny Wallace, only to find, like so many others, that they have no sponsor. Whelen Engineering comes on board for Daytona, where Blaney leads 3 laps of the Budweiser shootout. He's still challenging Jeremy Mayfield for the top spot with 11 laps to go when the two come together.
Oh, trouble! Jeremy Mayfield, the race leader! Caution flag is out. Jeremy Mayfield has brought his car to pit road and is turning it behind the wall.
Dave Blaney.
Blaney got some damage when Mayfield bounced off the wall, and so he's going to the garage as well.
Blaney finishes 15th in the Daytona 500, but with still no steady sponsorship, skips Rockingham and pursues only a partial schedule for the rest of the year. His next 2 starts are the 4th race in Atlanta and the 7th in Texas. Both times he finishes 11th. Finish Line Dodge, a local dealership, sponsors his next run in the Open. Then there's the case of Richard Childress Racing's number 33 team, which debuted with Mike Skinner in Daytona. Happy with their exposure during the 500, Bass Pro Shops sign on to attempt the remaining 3 superspeedway races, starting with Talladega in April. Taking the wheel this time is a driver who had lost his Busch Series ride with Fitz Bradshaw the previous fall, Kerry Earnhardt. In a competitive Aaron's 499, Earnhardt surprises with a strong run.
And Kerry Earnhardt's that black car on the outside coming.
Yeah, that thing has come alive here lately. He's been running right up here near the front, and I think he just kind of took it easy early on, not to get in any trouble. Now he's kind of standing on it.
7 of the last 10 Cup races at Talladega have been won by an Earnhardt.
And you know, this is only Kerry's second Nextel Cup start. Started a race back in Michigan in 2000.
Right, tried to make a couple of races earlier this season, but failed to qualify.
Well, I got to believe if, this is a great opportunity for Kerry, and he needs to capitalize on this one.
Yeah, this is one of about 4 or 5 races he's going to run for Richard Childress in that 33 car.
Earnhardt, he can go high, he can go low. I think he's coming around for him.
Yeah, this is one of the Childress cars that's never raced, but every time they go restrictor plate testing, this car has been there to do some development work.
But it all comes undone on lap 115.
Something was happening over there, bottlenecking everybody up. I'm not sure something happened in front of Kerry, and I think he got punted.
It was like a caterpillar, the way a caterpillar moves, Darrell. Something happened up front. By the time it bowed up and got back down, there was Kerry.
The run doesn't go unnoticed. On the Thursday before the Open, Earnhardt is among the 5 top contenders to take the fan vote, joined by Jeff Burton, Sterling Marlin, Jamie McMurray, and Ken Schrader. It's also a reunion of sorts for Bass Pro Shops, who in 1998 began their relationship with Richard Childress Racing when they sponsored Dale Earnhardt's car in the All-Star race. Unsurprisingly, Dale Jr. throws his weight behind Kerry's run, though he's not the only driver he's pulling for. "I'm putting Kerry's name in the hat for that fan vote," he says. "I'm running that campaign. I'm just hoping that Kerry Earnhardt or Carl Long gets voted in. That would be awesome. Who better to get in that race? Carl may not have a shot to win, but he could sure use the money." Not among these mid-pack teams is AJ Foyt Racing, which by now has suspended its Cup program so Larry Foyt can focus on the following week's Indy 500. AJ is considering legal action against sponsor Harrah's, which still had a year left on their contract before pulling out. DEI has not entered its number 1 car. Richie Gilmore, DEI's director of motorsports, said 2 potential sponsors were looking to make a decision in February. The team's absence since Rockingham seemed to indicate the result. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I am Brock Beard, and this was your starting lineup for the 2004 Nextel Open at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. On the pole, the Buckeye Bullets Dave Blaney and Casey Mears reappears on the outside pole. Dodge occupies the top 4 spots and 8 of the top 10. Row 2 has Joplin, Missouri's Jamie McMurray, winner here in the fall of 2002, and Jeremy Mayfield, 12th here last fall. Row 3 has the Net Zero high-speed machine of Ward Burton, his first start in the Open since 1998, and 3-time Open winner Sterling Marlin. A lot of excitement in Row 4, Jeff Green for the Petties in his 3rd Open start, and 1996 winner Jimmy Spencer hasn't finished worse than 9th in this race in his last 9 starts. It's an all-rookie Row 5 with Scott Wimmer 3rd in the Daytona 500 and Truck Series standout Brendan Gaughan. Row 6, the Rooster, Ricky Rudd, his first Open in 3 years, and fan vote favorite Kerry Earnhardt, so strong at Talladega. 2 more rookies in Row 7 with Johnny Sergeant Sauter in the AOL Chevrolet and the Valvoline machine of Scotty Riggs. Back to Row 8, 1990 Daytona 500 champion Derek Koch for Don Arnold, and Super K Kenny Schrader has 3 runner-up finishes in this race. Row 9, defending Open winner Jeff Burton has to climb from the 17th starting spot. Kevin LePage, his former teammate, drives for Hermie Sadler. Row 10, it's Morgan Shepherd seeking his first All-Star main since 1994, and stuntman Stanton Barrett. Ranked behind 3 of the field fillers, Kyle Petty seeks his first All-Star since 1997. He rolls off inside the 11th row alongside last year's ARCA winner, Kirk Shelmerdine. The 12th row sees the long shot Carl Long and Indiana Andy Hillenburg. And rounding out the field in the 25th spot, the only Pontiac in the field belongs to Andy Belmont. And ladies and gentlemen, there's your field for the Nextel Open. Underdogs in NASCAR have long talked about the scenario where lightning strikes and every car in front of them finds trouble, giving them a shot at a good finish or even a win. And on this night, that's exactly what happens.
Oh, tonight more than any other night. We're going to do it.
Green flag, green flag.
Boogity, 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 boys! Let's go racing! Oh, here didn't get up to speed, gets turned around, and we got all kinds of cars spinning. Kerry Earnhardt.
Oh, they're all going all to pieces.
It's about 10 cars or a dozen cars.
Now, as they came to the green, as they came to the line, something happened with the target number 41 of Casey Mears, and he got totally jacked up by the car that started 4th, Jeremy Mayfield, lifting the rear wheels of Mears' car off the ground. And behind that, everybody ran for cover and could find none.
2 near simultaneous wrecks clear out almost all the front runners. The instant Mears shifts into 3rd gear, the transmission explodes in his hand. Jeremy Mayfield and Sterling Marlin pile in, damaging both ends of their Dodges as they sweep Mears aside. Further back, 8th place starter Jimmy Spencer also gets a poor start, causing another stack-up between Scott Riggs, Kerry Earnhardt, and Brendan Gaughan. Gaughan's contact hooks Spencer to the left, clipping Ricky Rudd and sending him careening into the outside wall. Derek Koch is the first field filler on the scene. He threads the needle past a spinning Earnhardt. Jeff Burton tries to follow Koch but isn't so lucky and follows Rudd into the wall. When the green flag drops, much of the field is already pulled away from 19th place Morgan Shepherd, who leads Kyle Petty and the remainder of the field fillers. This gives Shepherd enough time to cut to the left, trying to escape into the grass, but Shepherd's going too fast. He loses control and nearly collides with Johnny Sauter, who picks up damage on his right rear as he escapes to the apron. The rest of the field fillers take it much slower. Andy Belmont and Stanton Barrett also take to the grass, but at a snail's pace. A moment later, Shepherd gets his car pointed the right direction, pulls away from 5 fully funded cars stopped, utterly destroyed on the apron. The drivers involved can do little more than laugh it off.
Yeah, we had a really good start. I felt pretty good about it. And as soon as I went to 3rd, the transmission just blew up. So it's just a bad day for the Target Dodge. But, like I said, fortunately, it's not a points race, and unfortunately, it was a chance to get $1 million. So that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah, it really was. I don't think we made it hardly past the start-finish line.
I don't really know what happened. Casey blew up a transmission, and we were just in the back in the wreckage. Nothing we could do.
Well, it's really disappointing. For all of us, we all wanted to lay it on the line tonight and see what we could get done, and to not even get to turn 1 to find out what you had is disappointing.
Yeah, it was a pretty bad crash. I guess somebody broke a transmission or something. That's the only thing that could happen on a start of the race. If not, there was a dumb idiot up there or whatever pushed somebody, but tore the 4 car pretty bad. Had a really good car. But that's the shortest race that I can ever remember being in. Shortest race. I don't think we went 1,000 feet. So not a good night. Not going to be in the Nextel event. That sucks. And just sucks, man.
Of the 25 starters, 10 have suffered some sort of damage already. Of the 10 damaged cars, half of them, Jeff Burton, Scott Riggs, Brendan Gaughan, Ricky Rudd, and Casey Mears, are already out. Ricky Rudd had been using this race to test a brand new setup, a setup that only travels about 200 feet. The other 15 starters escape, including all 8 of the field fillers. And when NASCAR refuses to allow anyone to switch to backup cars, the game has quite suddenly changed. In a microcosm of the season that saw them return, the starting grid has been decimated, and these 8 survivors will fill it. And while the chances of any of them winning the Open remain slim, the elimination of so many big names so early in the race means they at least have a better shot at the fan vote and a much-needed payday. If there was ever a thought of starting parking this night, it's certainly gone now. Now the fight is to stay on the lead lap, which is all they need to do to stay in contention for the vote. And the question to somebody like me was, well, which filler is going to finish best? Back on pit road, teams thrash at damaged cars. Kerry Earnhardt's car gushes water from a busted radiator, and Robbie Gordon's pit crew sets to work trying to install a new one. Jeremy Mayfield's team pulls out so much red tape that it practically covers the logos on his dented hood. Johnny Sauter and Sterling Marlin have comparatively less damage, but still spend an extended time on pit road. None more than Jimmy Spencer, whose team pieces the number 4 car back together in the garage.
Hey, Mr. Excitement's back.
Oh, yeah.
Back.
And the fans love it.
Hey, you got to applaud the effort. You know, he did lose a couple of laps here, but you've got to applaud the effort because it would be easy to put that car in the truck and catch the early flight out of here, beat the traffic. But nope, Spencer's a racer.
It's lap 5 when the field begins to roll once more. Despite how quickly the wrecks had unfolded, the top 5 drivers on the inside line have escaped completely unscathed, putting Dave Blaney in the lead over Jamie McMurray, Ward Burton, Jeff Green, and Scott Wimmer. But holding the 6th spot now is Derek Cope, first of the field fillers, with Stanton Barrett 7th, ahead of Kyle Petty's fully funded number 45. Carl Long holds 9th, with Andy Belmont 10th, Kirk Shelmerdine 11th, then Ken Schrader up to 12th over Kevin LePage and Morgan Shepherd. Andy Hillenburg trails back further in 18th behind the damaged cars of Sauter, Mayfield, and Marlin. And behind Hillenburg comes Kerry Earnhardt, still on the lead lap with his new radiator, and 20th place Spencer, 2 laps down in a car even more destroyed.
They'll complete lap 5. It'll be 15 to go in this segment.
You cannot pass until you cross the start-finish line. Almost had a problem again. Scott Wimmer had to dive out behind Ward Burton's car there.
The race restarts with 14 laps still to go in the first 20-lap segment. On the break, Cope manages to keep up with Blaney and McMurray, while Barrett begins to slip back to 8th. Further back, Johnny Sauter pulls a 3-wide pass on Shelmerdine. Back into turn 1, and here comes Carl Long looking under Barrett for position, now locked in a side-by-side battle for the 7th spot. Long inches ahead at the stripe, leaving Barrett to be sworn by Ken Schrader and a charging Johnny Sauter. Mayfield catches Long on lap 9, but Long makes him work for it.
Pull up behind Carl Long in the 46 car there. Boy, and there comes Sterling down on the inside, and he is...
Oh, he just swept past Sauter.
He was motoring, but he ran out of space. Someone was in his space. Tell you what, Carl Long, that 46 car, he's not just moving over and giving up to these guys right here.
All single file in front of this battle for 9th. Make that 8th place on back. Mayfield forges ahead of that group.
On lap 11, Derek Cope is now racing Kyle Petty for 6th, but Mayfield's trying to get past them both. Cope hangs on until his car breaks loose and slips to 10th. 2 laps later, Morgan Shepherd passes Carl Long, and both now have Kevin LePage right behind them. LePage clears Long to take 13th. With 2 laps to go in the segment, the Dodges continue to mix it up, both the fully funded and the field fillers. Cope is still working on Kyle Petty for position. Shepherd is doing the same to Ken Schrader. Long is still in the picture, this time battling LePage to get his spot back. Further back, Andy Hillenburg is still in 17th, 3 seconds back of Andy Belmont, but well ahead of the damaged Kerry Earnhardt, who now has to contend with Kirk Shelmerdine. Earnhardt stays on the lead lap at lap 20. Since he's about to be lapped, he still has another circuit to complete. This allows McMurray to catch Earnhardt in turn 3. Only then does the caution come out, keeping Earnhardt on the lead lap. At the break, everyone comes down pit road. Everyone, that is, except Jimmy Spencer's lapped car and Kirk Shelmerdine. This puts Shelmerdine out front for the first time.
Now, I'm kidding about Kirk Shelmerdine. We all know that that is a very underfunded effort. He does not have a major sponsor, doesn't have a full season sponsor. He's running this race team out of his pocket. So I'm kidding about the tires, Kirk, and if need be, well, I'll chip in, help buy you some.
During pit stop, Sterling Marlin takes 2 tires and beats McMurray off pit road ahead of Green, Mayfield, and Wimmer. Ward Burton's crew has trouble with the right front tire, and Dave Blaney also has a slow stop. Inheriting the 6th spot from them both is Carl Long, with a battered Johnny Sauter right behind. Coming to the green flag for the final 10 laps, Shelmerdine drops to the tail end of the field. Marlin and McMurray are up front now, with Green and Mayfield behind, followed by Long on the outside of Wimmer. The Dodge domination continues, with Cope and Shepard taking 11th and 12th over the top Chevrolet in 13th, Kevin LePage for Score Motorsports. The green flag drops, and Marlin gets a huge jump on McMurray for the lead. Green slots into 3rd. Long, however, is losing positions, but fights back against Kyle Petty in the outside line. Soon, Shepard and LePage are forming up on the inside. Further back, Kerry Earnhardt's water temperature is up to 280 degrees. He pulls off the track soon after, out of the main event. Johnny Sauter makes contact with Ward Burton. 6 to go, and here comes Morgan Shepard racing past Kyle Petty into turn 1. Further ahead, Derek Cope is holding fast to the 10th spot. Marlin leads over a fast-closing McMurray, with Mayfield trying to get past Jeff Green when the caution comes out.
Backstretch, Kirk Shelmerdine in trouble. A shower of sparks.
Boy, he's
Send
hit
him
the
to
wall.
the garage.
He's hit the wall hard.
The RacingUnderdog.com Chevy.
And trying to be smart, sat there, led the race, for a lap, falls to the rear on the restart, taking care of his stuff, and this is unfortunate.
As we went to caution, Kerry Earnhardt took his car to the garage area, so he will not have a chance to advance.
Oh boy, Kurt just lost it. Looks like he lost the right front tire.
Just went flat over Darryl.
It's a terrible break for Kirk Shelmerdine, who loses his right front in turn 1, flattening the right side of his car. With less than a week until qualifying for the 600, Shelmerdine will have to scramble to assemble another car out of a discarded Greg Biffle entry. The race restarts with 5 to go, once again side by side, a unique format at the time. Barrett now catches up to the field at the green flag. Marlin and McMurray rub fenders as Mayfield clears Green, who tries to get 3rd from Marlin. Further back, Cope is still the top field filler, but Shepard has broken away and is starting to close. With 3 to go, Shepard gets under Cope off turn 2 as LePage reels in them both. Cope holds him off. All 3 have passed Kyle Petty, who is now dropped to 13th. Up front, the battle intensifies between the Dodges of Mayfield, McMurray, and Marlin.
McMurray edges ahead, and they'll see the white flag.
Whoa,
this
whoa,
time.
they touched that time again. Oh,
saved
Andy
it.
gets sideways, baby. Holds on to it. Hang on to it. Marlin's up there, white flag. Hang on to it, Jamie. Here comes Sterling.
McMurray saved it, but it gave Marlin a run on both of them, and Marlin takes the lead, trying to win his 4th Nextel Open.
Further back, Kyle Petty passes LePage for 12th, but he can't catch Shepard or Cope, who are further ahead. Trailing this battle is an intensifying fight between the 2 Andys, Belmont over Hillenburg. Andy Belmont recalls the moment.
And Andy Hillenburg and I, we went out there, and you got to picture the insanity of this. We're racing at Charlotte Motor Speedway, running side by side, beating the living daylights out of each other. The winner got a pizza. It didn't matter whether we were 12th and 13th or 20th or 29th and 30th, none of that mattered. All it mattered was that I beat Hillenburg, so he had to buy me a pizza over at Buc-ee's or whatever it was over in Harrisburg. And so we raced for a pizza.
It is then that another driver joins the pizza battle, a certain former Domino's franchisee.
And we were so busy beating on each other, like we had a straightaway on Carl Long when we got side by side. And you know how they say the cars slow down when they're side by side. We raced so hard, and we were too stupid to realize what was going on. The car along just drove on up and past us. And then after the race, we were all just having a beer, laughing. But man, it was the most fun racing I had in my life. You know, man, one of my close friends were racing wheel to wheel. We're literally rubbing at 180 mile an hour. And and we're racing for a pizza, and then none of the other shit matters, you know what I mean?
Sterling Marlin wins the race, but Hillenburg wins the pizza.
We really pissed off Gary Nelson that night when he was the head of the NASCAR deal. He had his truck, he just parked his truck, and it was, here we were the back markers. So while the Winston was going on, we wanted to load up so we could get out of there so we could stand on top of the hall and watch the race. Well, Gary's truck was in our way, so we went over there and jacked it up, put rollers on it, slid it over to the side of the fence, and then we put about 200 tires around it so you couldn't see it. So he thought somebody stole his truck. He was, man, was he pissed off. I don't know to this day that he actually knew that we all did that, but it was us, and I won't mention the other teams, so they're still racing.
7 of the 8 field fillers finish on the lead lap, remaining in contention for the fan vote. Derek Cope and Arnold Motorsports finished best in class, ticking home 10th, just ahead of Morgan Shepherd in 11th. Kevin LePage takes 13th with Carl Long 14th over Hillenburg and Belmont. Stanton Barrett takes 17th. Kirk Shelmerdine, the only DNF of the group, still takes 19th. Since the only laps Shelmerdine led were under the caution and thus not scored, he's not credited with leading them in the final results. At last, it's time to reveal the results of the fan vote.
The veteran from Fenton, Missouri, Kenny Schrader.
Schrader, who finished 9th in the Open, will make the All-Star race for the first time since 1995. Of the 274,303 votes cast, Schrader has earned 32,623. Finishing second is Jimmy McMurray. After losing to his teammate in the Open, McMurray loses the fan vote by just 343 votes. Unfortunately, not one of the field fillers will transfer into the NASCAR Nextel All-Star Challenge. That is, not one of the field fillers I've talked about so far.
In America, there exists a sport that is driven by the fans. They are why everyone works so hard, on the teams and at the tracks, in front of the grandstands and behind the scenes, to give the fans the greatest race possible. NASCAR fans deserve the best, starting from the high banks of Daytona, all the way to the shores of California, and at every race in between. NASCAR fans, you're the reason for our success. Thanks.